Why do we suffer so much in life? Suffering. As the Dalai Lama says, granted, there is suffering in life, yet 90% of our suffering comes from the mind. Maybe 10% is physical. And I totally agree with that, because the mind is our greatest source of suffering. Or not the mind, but actually what occurs within this thing that we call the mind. And I want to talk about that for a moment or two, because I think it's important. We have all these opinions and notions and beliefs about how things should be. And that's the thing. We start believing these ideas. We start believing how things should be, instead of relating actually to how things are. Think about that for a moment. We have all these ideas of how we're supposed to be, how the world is supposed to be. We have actually opinions on reality. I mean, there is reality, and then we have these opinions about how reality should be, which, if you think about it for a moment, is totally insane. How can we have an opinion about how things should be, how reality should be? I mean, who are we to have an opinion about that? Has this moment ever been before in the world? How can we have an opinion about it? I mean, we can have an opinion, but that opinion is totally insanity. It's just these thoughts coming up, and we start believing these thoughts, instead of dealing with what is now, what is happening now, dealing with reality. And granted, if we want to go a little bit deeper into that, I'm the first one to agree. I don't know what reality is. I have no idea what it is. And you know what? It doesn't really matter, because what I know is what reality isn't. And reality is not what I think it is. In other words, any belief I have about reality, or any opinion or any thought I have about what this reality is, I know that's not reality, because this is coming through my own thinking, through my own mind, through my eyes, through my karma, my conditioning, my life. And that's why I think what reality is. In essence, we don't know what reality is. We have no idea, but we can pretty much assume what reality isn't, and that's what we think it is. Now, I know that's a little bit of a paradox, but I don't think I can put it in any simpler way. Reality is definitely not what we think it is. So, having said that, and understanding deeply that we do not know what reality is, how can we have an opinion about something that we don't even know what it is? If you zoom out into the interplanetary system and you think about our tiny little planet Earth, this tiny little world, which our scientists today say that this whole galaxy we're in is like a speck of dust, you know, in what else is going on here, then why are we taking these things that occur in our mind so seriously? Why don't we loosen up a bit? Why don't we stop attaching ourselves to all our opinions and thoughts that float up all the time? I mean, there is no way to stop thinking. There's no way that we can stop thoughts from coming up. Yet, and this meditation teaches us for the past 2,500 years, we can learn to live alongside, together with our thoughts, without being attached to them or without pushing them away. Just, letting them be there like anything else. Thought is a thought. Because our thoughts and our attachment to our thoughts, that is what causes us the biggest distress and mental anguish and suffering and general stress. By believing our thoughts, being attached to them, thinking the world should be different than what it is, and it's not. Now, I don't propose here in any way by speaking a couple of minutes about suffering and thoughts and the mind, and I can go into this in great depth, but there's no need right now. I don't propose to say that, okay, you're going to listen for 5, 6, 7 minutes to this guy Eddie talking and wow, life is going to change. That's not how it works. But change is very peculiar. Change is funny. Change is very, very gradual. And it could be that by listening to this, to me, and by listening to great masters, which I have no thought of thinking of myself as one, but by listening to the great masters, and then maybe starting the inner spiritual work, which I would say it starts even by finding a master and starting to meditate. Simple stuff, really simple. That is the beginning of the journey. A journey which never stops. And by doing that, by listening to masters, by listening even to this, couple of minutes, maybe can start something. It can start a process. And if you're listening, you say, hey, I don't know, maybe this guy Eddie, maybe he's right. You don't have to suffer all the time, or you don't have to suffer that much. And maybe it is within, it's in my head. At least I'll check it out. Let me try. So that's what I want to say. Suffering is within our mind. And we have the tools and the capability to deal with that and to lessen it or to alleviate it totally. I'm not talking now about physical suffering. Granted, there is suffering. Yes, and there is pain and anguish. However, most of it, a good part of it, has to do with what's going on here within our minds. So go, take care of your mind, guard it carefully, and do good work. Because then you will see that you will suffer much less.